Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar. Minoteh sheyarbitzeini ameh menuchot yenachaleni. Nafshi shovev. Yanacheni v'magle tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki herech v'gitzal mavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorirai. Di shanta v'shemen roshi kosiri vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdifuni ko yamei chayai. B'shaviti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. As you are seeking comfort and strength, we often turn to the psalmist, and I ask you now to recite these words with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we remember Phyllis Gordin. To her children, Arthur and Joni, also to Ju and Jim, and her grandchildren, Julie, Nicole, and Derek, to the members of the family, and to so many dear and cherished friends, we've come together today to remember, but to celebrate the life of your beloved Phyllis. We've been taught that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and that life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness, from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, and from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage, Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Phyllis was born here in Cleveland in 1928, and she was the eldest of two children born to her Ukrainian-Russian immigrant parents, Selma and Sandy Coben. Her parents were hardworking people who did their best to provide for their children. The Coben family made their home in Cleveland Heights. And following her graduation from Cleveland Heights High School, Phyllis matriculated to The Ohio State University. In her freshman year, Phyllis had a girlfriend who was always telling her about a certain young man named Maury. This student, or this Maury, who was several years older than Phyllis, would often sit in the dining hall at meals with Phyllis's friend, and the friend really thought that the two of them should meet. Phyllis and Maury, she thought, would make a wonderful couple. The friend persisted, and Phyllis wanted absolutely nothing to do with this fix-up. But finally, after a lot of pressure, she gave in and agreed to meet Maury Gordin. 5 years ago, almost to the day, 5 years ago, I had an opportunity to sit with Phyllis and her family as we sat in preparation for Maury's funeral. I have the privilege to share with you Phyllis's exact words, the words she spoke to me that she said I could say at Maury's funeral. When I asked her about her first meeting Maury, Phyllis said the following: "The attraction was immediate. I liked what I saw, and I chased him." She recalled her first date and told me that they went out for dinner and dancing. Their courtship was romantic and special, and she told me that they were married June 26, 1949 by Rabbi Rudolph Rosenthal at the Temple on the Heights. And this marriage lasted for 64 years until the time of Maury's death. As they journeyed together through life, Maury and Phyllis were blessed with children, Arthur and Joni. As both a couple and a family, the Gordins enjoyed traveling. There were different trips to Niagara Falls and Toronto. They visited Spain, Jamaica, Hawaii, went across the country visiting our United States. And Joni, when we spoke the other day, you reminded me of this amazing group of friends that your parents enjoyed. The friends were simply known as the club. We're getting together with the club. And they had gatherings monthly, but they were also there for each other in all the happiest of times, the holidays, the milestones, then the celebrations. But the members of the club were also there in the saddest and most difficult of times. And these people meant the world to both your parents. And Joni, as we sat the other day, you reflected on your mom's life and her accomplishments. In your mom, you saw a woman who was very determined. You watched her start a career at 55 years young as a real estate agent. You saw her as she worked in this profession diligently, and did she work just up until 6 months ago. When thinking about your mom's determination and her drive, we cannot ignore the fact that your mom lived with cancer for 12 years. She baffled the doctors, and she just kept beating the odds. One of the prayers that I just read for you, where it says, from defeat to defeat to defeat. And I imagine in those 12 years there were many setbacks, but she was never defeated by that. She did what she needed to do to live, and she did it without complaining. Many people who knew her and who saw her regularly never even knew that she was ill. Your mom demonstrated an amazing desire to live life, and she kept looking for different ways to heal and to overcome her cancer, whether it was by diet or holistic remedies, and of course her team of physicians. Your mom just would not give up. And Joni, we know that you are quite an extraordinary daughter. The care that you gave both to your mom and your dad, it shines as an example to all of us. Your mom was able to live independently at home until her last breath. And in her last days, she was able to leave you with some specific instructions, as well as what you called some pearls of wisdom. Joni, she said to you, and I'm quoting, she said, "I'm so blessed and fortunate. I've had such a long and full life, and I feel very fulfilled." And then, Joni, she instructed you the following. She said, "This is your time." And what did she mean by that? She meant that you're the type of daughter and the type of mother and the type of wife and friend who has spent a lot of time giving care to others. And she did not want you to worry anymore about being the caretaker. And so, Joni, as your mom told you, this is your time. You also shared with me how you saw your mom as being beloved by so many of her colleagues, especially at Howard Hanna. When the time came when she was too weak to converse on the phone, and I know there are many of you here in the room who wanted to call her and wanted to visit her, but when she could no longer really find the energy to speak on the phone or to accept an in-person visit, she sat down with one of her dearest colleagues, Jenny, and she asked Jenny to pen the following and to share it with the Howard Hanna colleagues. And it read like this: "Dear offices, many thanks for your good wishes and caring for me all these years. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to a better place, my mansion in the sky." And Joni, the responses began to pour in, and you read them to your mom. Beautiful emails and notes from all of these friends who she loves so much. You told me that she was so happy and deeply moved, and with each note that you read, your mom would tell you a little bit about each of that person. It was special, and it was very emotional for her. These sweet emails reminded you of your mom's best qualities, as everyone who wrote echoed the same theme, that Phyllis, for them, had been such a role model, and they admired her valiant fight and her desire to live. And how much did your mom love her career? Quite a bit. Once, when she was in rehab last year, Phyllis actually sold a house to one of her nurses. I think this woman knew how to make a deal. She's blessed with 3 beautiful grandchildren. And Julie, you said that recently you told your grandma that she was the strongest person you ever knew. And she said that I could say that at her funeral. And so she was, a shining example to you. Julie, you admired how Grandma was always seeking alternative ways to regain her health and live a good and meaningful life. You said that she was a bit ahead of her time, that she made significant changes in her diet, cutting out sugars and carbs before everybody was saying this is what you should do. Your grandma was doing this before it was being promoted, and she would happily educate others on how to be more proactive in preventing cancers. And Julie, you know so well, not just how much she loved you, but how very proud of you she was of your accomplishments. And also for your little cousins, Nicole and Derek. She thought they were the cutest children she had ever seen. Julie, you'll always remember her competitive spirit, her playing cards or the game of spoons with you, and she would not ever let you win. You had to earn it. This was quite a competitive grandmother. You also remember how she loved a good bargain. She loved Costco. She knew all the people who gave out the food samples by first name. And she would travel in her hybrid car to several grocery stores just to get the best bargains of the day. Your grandmother also had a unique understanding of the world, and she was concerned about a number of things, including the environment and the political scene. These were important to her. And Julie, you'll always be in awe of your grandmother's energy. You told me that between her work, Maj, bridge, tennis, her tickets to the Cleveland Playhouse and the Cleveland Orchestra, and going out to dinner or the movies with girlfriends, you remarked that your grandmother's calendar was busier than yours, your mom's, and your dad's all combined. She was quite a gal. You know, our tradition tells us that words which come from the heart enter directly to the heart. And with words from his heart, I want to call on her son-in-law, Jim, who has some special memories to share with us. Right here.
Back here? Okay.
If you're okay then.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Jim Hill, Joan's husband, and of course the son-in-law, Phyllis. And the reason I wanted to say something is Joan never likes to talk, and I wanted it to be a little bit personal, add a little family touch to it. So I think what Kathy said was very, very accurate and covered almost all the bases. But I thought it'd be fun to I met this woman when I was 25 years old. I had met Joan down at Indiana University, and we had kind of one of these fast love affairs. And what was interesting about it, she never let me know she was Jewish. And I'm a little Catholic boy from northern Indiana. So after I fall in love with her, somewhere it creeps out she's Jewish. And I went, really? Okay, well, we'll see where that goes. And it ended up about 3 years later, I graduated from school, and she got done early. I started before, she got done before I did. Typical brainy kid, Joan. Took after her father, who had an exorbitant amount of brain power. And Phyllis, of course, was very sharp. But came to Cleveland, never met either the mother or the father. And I didn't have a job. I was an accountant by training. And I thought I needed time off because I'd gone to school for all these years. It took me 5 years to do 4 years. And Joan told me that one of the reasons she was willing to marry me was that I had a paper route. I always worked. I was a little bit of I didn't have money. My family didn't have any money. And when I went away to school, they said, you should go to school. And I said, well, how do I do it? They had no idea. So I only knew of one school in the state of Indiana called IU. That's how I got there. I was kind of foggy my whole life, but it worked out well in the end. So I get to Cleveland, and we announced to them, because we decided we get married, my bringing her back to Cleveland from Indiana University down in Bloomington, and an old 57 Chevy. I pull up in the driveway, and I think maybe before we got there, the 2 or 3 days before, she told her parents we wanted to get married. And it went from that to, okay, we're going to get married in a couple of weeks before summer was over. And they stopped me shortly after I got in their home over on Hedge Hill, and they said, where do you work? I went, work? I got a few bucks in the pocket because I borrowed money. They said, you can't marry our daughter unless you have a job. I had a phone book given to me the next day to call all the CPA firms, which I did. Most had already hired, but I found one, had one interview, left town, got a call, and got started in public accounting. So that push, my family was just, I don't know, they didn't provide certain amount of structure. They gave me values, they did a lot of things, they had a divorce, I don't know. And one of the things I got out of the Gordin family was that continuity. And you got to get a job if you're going to marry our daughter. And okay. The next thing, just a little bit more to this, is that I had to have an interview to that first job. I didn't have a suit because I wasn't planning on working. I thought I should travel for a few years. I didn't know where. Typical 1975 little hippie boy. And we went to get a suit. And so we go to Sears and Roebuck because, I don't know, that's where you go apparently. She goes in, I pick a dark suit, and she walks up to the person selling and calls for him. She goes, now that's on sale. And I said, yes. She says, you know, there's something on the sleeve here a little bit. Can we get a discount? I thought, oh my God, what are you talking about? You get a discount off of something on sale? I didn't know this notion. So I learned the art of getting a good price from Phyllis. I mean, whether it's on sale or not, it doesn't matter. You ask, so I did hone that well, and my family never did things like that. The last little thing I guess that popped in my mind is we're married for about 2 months. They come over to the apartment that we had over on Winslow, and they hand me an envelope. And I go, what's that? And they said, that's Joni's babysitting money. They never let her spend a dime of any, and they handed it to me. Joan doesn't remember that. And I thought, wow. Now that shows you a little how chauvinistic the world was, right? That being the case, Phyllis was a woman ahead of her times, as already mentioned. because she wanted to buy a McDonald's franchise, and her husband didn't know what that was. Had she done that, she would have hit pay dirt, of course, because it was a booming thing. I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say, other than she and Maury provided stability that I didn't get from my family. I had a lot of love, I had a lot of drama, a lot of interesting brothers and sisters and things. And we lived the entire time in Cleveland, and she and Maury were a source of stability. And I remember taking them out. They would go out to dinner when we were younger, and they'd buy dinner. And I was like, oh, so happy. And then, you know, just as it happens, the kids prosper, and we start taking them out to dinner. And that I think is what they wanted, to see their kids do better. And we did. So I think we were good. Joan was a great daughter. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We take a moment for our own reflection, and we ask God to receive Phyllis's soul. As you're able, I invite you to rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamsemen Ochana Chana, Tachat Kanfech Ashchina, B'malot Kedoshim Otarim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim. Et nishmat Yakirenu, Shahalacha le'olama, Began Eden Techemenuchata. Anna b'harachamim astirecha, b'seiter knafech le'olamim, b'titrar b'torecha yemet nishmata, Adonai hu nechalata, v'tanuach b'shalom, al mishkavo b'nomar, Amen. O merciful God who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Phyllis Gordin, who has gone now to her eternal home, may her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we can say, Amen. Friends, let me just share a couple brief announcements with you. Our service will now continue at the Lakeview Cemetery, and following the internment, the family will receive visitors at Joan and Jim's home, which is at 6060 Quail Hollow Drive in Moreland Hills. Visitation will be until 7 p.m. tonight, and also tomorrow from 1 until 4 p.m., and after a brief break, concluding in the evening tomorrow from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Anyone who's wishing to make a contribution in memory of Phyllis, the family has suggested that you might consider the Gathering Place or the Hospice of the Western Reserve. On behalf of the entire family, we thank you for your love and support today.